So, is there someone else who would like to talk about their nuclear activism in the good old days? Bud, did you say you were doing some?
It's in my song.
Oh, okay. John, you want to tell us about what's going on in Ohio, the stuff that you videotaped?
Nothing that I videotaped was in Ohio. It was all in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and New England. Tell us about that. Seriously, that would be me. You know that, don't you?
Hey.
Okay. New England has a lot of nukes, and most of them are still operating. The work that I did revolved around the decommissioning of the Yankee Row nuclear power plant, and the decommissioning that they did at Yankee Row. Instead of putting the waste in safe store, they did everything they could to dump it quickly, and they took it by train down to Barnwell, South Carolina, where they don't have near the environmental standards they do in Massachusetts, and they dumped the reactor vessel in a trench in Barnwell, South Carolina. About 6,000 curies with traces of plutonium, basically a reactor vessel where nuclear reactions have been taking place for 30 years. And the reason the companies want to do that is because once it's off their property, it's no longer their liability. So they can't be held responsible for any of the cancers or any of the birth defects that the thing causes once it's in Barnwell, South Carolina. What they discovered at the Yankee Row plant, which was the first commercial nuclear power plant in the country, and they did this through Freedom of Information Act and through litigation, is that they discovered that the plant, during the life of the plant, had released huge amounts of tritium into the Deerfield River. And Western Massachusetts is a lot like Northern California. It's very rural. There's a lot of agriculture and farming, a lot of potato farming along the Deerfield River, and the farmers just back their tractor up to the river and fill up a bucket and water their crops with it. And after the plant closed down, Citizens Awareness Network did a health study in the area, and they found that there were definitely a large increase in the amount of Down syndrome, in multiple myeloma, and a number of other cancers around a nuclear power plant without having any accidents. This is just during standard operation. They caused a lot of people to get cancer, and a lot of people a lot of suffering. Down syndrome. That's really rough on a family to have a child with Down syndrome, especially if it was caused by a nuke plant, and the nuke plant is going to do nothing for it. I did some work around the Vermont Yankee reactor, which is one of those General Electric Mark I boiling water reactors, the same model that are in Fukushima. And the design flaws in those reactors were long known. You know, when I made the documentary, it was back in 1998, and they had known for years that the containment was inadequate to withstand a serious accident. And they knew that the fire seals throughout the plant were flammable. You know, the things that are supposed to keep fire from spreading from one part of the plant to the other they were kind of polymer that it's inflated with hydrogen bubbles. You know, it's a chemical reaction that makes this foam sort of expand, and all those hydrogen bubbles, hydrogen's flammable, highly flammable. So, and most of the nuke plants in this country have these kind of fire seals throughout, like thousands of them, that are in every place where electric cable runs from one place to another to keep those cables keep fire from spreading throughout there. They have flammable fire seals in them. So, and this is just the beginning. You look at these old plants, the design wasn't usually up to par. So they find out that there's other things, there's secondary retrofits that they've had to do to these plants. For instance, those GE plants, they had to add a vent off of the containment stack so that if the pressure gets so high, they can just release it into the environment. But they find when they do these retrofits that they don't keep very good records for what they've put in. So, you know, you have a switch or something and it stops working, and you go back to the blueprints to see where it goes and how to fix it, and it's not in the blueprints. So it takes more time to trace down these problems. This stuff never gets any press, but our nuke plants are in terrible shape, and they're all very old. The last one that went online was what? 94. So everything that we're looking at is something that was built in the 70s. And they just keep, the Yankee, the plant in Vermont just got its license renewed. And it had all kinds of problems, besides the fire seals, besides the inadequate containment, besides the shroud, which is a big piece of steel like a barrel that holds the fuel in place. That had cracked around the center. And so they had to put tie rods around it to hold it together. And then it starts cracking down the side vertically. So these things are falling apart. The accidents, they release radiation into the environment all the time. One plant in Connecticut, some radioactive bricks were hosed off, and so the radioactive water drained off into the environment, and then the bricks were taken to a local playground in a school and built into the playground. And it was years before they discovered that these the children were playing on radioactive bricks from the Millstone nuclear power plant. So our nuke plants are a mess, and it's really important that we shut them down, and it's really important that we shut them down now, because they're going to be dangerous for decades, centuries, millennia. But it's going to require like power and people and resources for decades just to keep them from turning into what we've got going on in Fukushima. So it's very important that we shut these down now. And that's why we're out here today, and it's good to see so many people out here. I wish we could see more. Thank you.
Do we have any veterans here who would want to talk about depleted uranium? Okay, maybe later. Oh, Bud?
Yeah.
Maybe you should point that speaker a little bit towards the right.
Depleted uranium, DU. They forgot a couple of other letters. MB, dumb. They're the dumbest weapon ever invented, except for the atom bomb and so forth, themselves. Now we have polluted Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, and who knows where, how many other places where the little babies are being born without some of their limbs and without some of their brains and eyes, and we cannot, let the military keep doing this. This kind of thing is what activates me constantly. It's hard to keep up, though. It is, and depleted uranium is a bad idea. What can you say? Are we ready to hear a song yet?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe I'll just come over here and play a song. And also my guitar. Can you hear my guitar?
No, I gotta turn that up. Hold on.
I think they can hear it. You can hear my voice. Can you hear my guitar?
Guitar's a little soft. We can hear it.
Yeah, this song is a true story. I find it's more efficient to write a song than to sit and talk for a long time. However, I do have a radio show, and if I didn't, I'd explode. And that's why I'm on the no-fly list.
As a nuclear weapon?
I don't know, I probably am. I've never tried because I'm not going to go there. Nobody's going to look up my bum hole again, like the Navy did. Bunch of sick people. Okay, here we go. It was way back in '72 when we tried our best to get rid of the nukes, but politicians couldn't understand what radiation does to the land. They built those nuke plants all along the coast of California. We got the most, but 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania blew. It melted its core, but no one knew. They said everything is perfectly fine. They didn't mention on down the line epidemic of cancer, abnormal birth. Their greed for power will kill the earth. And I just think it's time to step away from nuclear power as an option today. Nowhere to put the waste that we have made. It's here forever if it ever degrades. Now Fukushima melts into our minds like melting fuel rods and the poison we find in every living thing on God's green earth. We'll kill the planet that gave us birth. And here's to the wizards of stupidity, outsmarting themselves and you and me, inventing weapons to protect us with, killing even those who believed in the myth. I just think it's time to step away from nuclear power as an option today. Nowhere to put the waste that we have made. It's here forever if it ever degrades. And here's to mankind and women as well, who brought us to this radioactive hell. We didn't have time to be active, and now we're Thank you. And here's one more.